Hello, good evening, good evening, good evening. This is Mike Johnson, and I'm your host on tonight with Mandatory Conversations podcast with Mike Johnson. This is episode 4, and we are going to get into this one tonight. It's going to be a great topic. Tonight, we're going to be dealing with men who struggle or suffer with daddy issues, and you would think that that wouldn't be the case. You hear a lot of talk about this with women who actually suffer with this as a result of having daddy issues. But on tonight, we're going to talk about men who suffer with daddy issues. And we're going to talk about all of the implications of that because there's some issues, man, when you are a man and you have daddy issues. There, I can't wait to get into this. We're going to talk about it, man. I don't want to get onto it right now, but we're going to talk about it. And on tonight, I have a very special guest with me. It's a friend. He's a pastor. He's a father. He's a husband. He's all of these things and so much more. We got with us Bishop Sam Metcalf with us on tonight. And when we get into his story, I think you are going to see some things. And I couldn't think of a more perfect person to do this with. And so we're going to get into it tonight. Sam, man, good to have you. How you doing on today?
Good, brother Mike. How's everything?
Man, I am great. I am great. Sam, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, man? And we're not going to waste any time. We're going to just jump straight into this one.
Well, good evening to everyone that may be logged in today. And again, good evening to you, Mr. Johnson. I call him Millionaire Mike. That's my guy. I'm Sam Metcalf, typical young man. You know, I say young man, right? But typical young man, but enjoy, happy to be on this earth today. But I am a pastor of a ministry here in Northern Virginia area, right outside of Quantico Marine Base. Been married 36 years, and we're proud parents of 5 boys and 5 girls. God has truly blessed us in a way that no one else has been blessed, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But that's all about me, and I just love conversations like this that help us men to be the men that God created us to be.
Yeah, man. I'm so excited to have you on, Sam. And we've had some background conversation. The reason I brought you on, Sam, is because again, you have 10 children. You're a son. I'm a son, and I want to talk about this issue of men having daddy issues. I know a ton of men right now walking around with these daddy issues. They're unresolved, actually, daddy issues. And when we talk about what these daddy issues are, I mean, they can be ranging from the father may have actually been in the home, but just wasn't present. The father may not have been present at all. The father might have been abusive, so forth and so on. And it's really, I want to get to the crux of not being affirmed by your father, not being blessed by your father in a sense that you know who you are as a man. When you walk today, you understand your full purpose. You understand what it is to be a man because you've seen, number one, your father in the household and the model that he provided and that whole 9 yards. But I want to get also to Sam into talking about what happens when a man is not walking in his purpose and he's not been affirmed by his father, and what exactly happens.
Right. Well, there are so many different ways we can go on that and finding your purpose and what is it that you're supposed to be. And for me, what I would say when we say a father not being in the home or not being there, some fathers being in the home,
Mm-hmm.
but I try to look at it from an angle of now when we're younger, let's just be honest, we have one view, right? And that one view we see it our way and we think it's supposed to be that way. But as we get older, we begin to understand and know that our fathers did things, right, that wasn't necessarily always correct, but they did things the way they learned things, right?
Mm-hmm.
They handled situations how they knew to handle situations. A lot of us can have some familiar backgrounds growing up as young men. A lot of us have familiar backgrounds, especially if you was in a home and the mom and dad, for unfortunate reason, wasn't living in a home together. For me, I was one of those. But I can say that my father was active in my life, right? Whatever went on with him and my mother, I'm gonna start it there. For
Mm-hmm.
me as a young man, I had to learn to get over that, right? Because we figure out, well, why is it that, we're trying to figure out why is it that you are not together? Why is it that you guys are not living together, right? And I thank God for my mom. She was a mom to say, hey, she never spoke ill of my father. She would always tell me, ask your father that question, right? And she would explain her side. So for me, in order to continue to grow to where I needed to be, I had to begin now to ask questions to my father. Mike, stop me when you're ready because I'll get going.
No,
Uh,
man, you
I,
doing
be,
good.
I began to ask questions of my dad, right? And then he began to explain to me different scenarios, different situations on how the decision came that he was now outside of the home, which was great because then what that did, that helped me understand him even more. Now, like you and like anyone else that may be on today, our fathers was taught to take care of the house, right? The breadwinner, right? My father was taught that the more you work, the more money you made, the better off your family would be. That's okay. That's great. But then it was that one thing as a young man growing up, and for my dad, he worked in the steel industry. I'm a young man growing up from a place called Gary, Indiana. He was a steel worker, right? So in the steel mills, right? There were times he would work a double shift, right? Because on his mind, he's like, I am the breadwinner. I need to provide. I need to do this. I need to do that, right? So, but in that, what was missing, and I'll start it here. What was missing as I began to get older, back a lot of us grew up. Some of us may have played sports and did different activities, right? On the weekend or on the weekday. So on those times, right? To look over on the sideline or on the bleachers somewhere, on the bleachers somewhere, to see your dad not being there. In
Hmm.
a lot of cases, that kind of affected you, especially if you had a good day in that particular thing, right? So I just say that to go back that my father did what he was taught, what he thought was right, and like I said before, and in his eyes, it was correct.
Hmm.
Right? It was correct, but still, yet you wanted that loving relationship, right? You wanted, because this thing can go two ways. You wanted that loving relationship. Now, I knew of some fellas that had a father in their home, and outside looking in, and then to see their fathers be at the activities and do different things. But in talking with them, a lot of them still yet, even with dad being home, we still yet miss something,
Yeah.
right? There was something missing, and I'm going to hit that one word. And even for me, I had to learn that, right? That LOVE,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Making the money, making sure that the houses are right, and this and that is great. But that LOVE means a lot, when it comes to us men. Some men may say, no, I didn't need that. Well, yeah, you did. You did need that, amen, because there was going to be somebody in your life that you were going to have to turn around to love, that you was going to have to turn around, conversate with, that you was going to have to turn around and tell them, my suggestion would be this, right? As a loving father. So for me, that was the main thing, right? My dad was solid. He was stern. I never needed anything, even though he wasn't in the house, right? But I needed that LOVE. I
Hmm.
needed that conversation. And I'm gonna freeze in a minute, and I'll follow in on it. I'm gonna give it back to you, Mike.
Hmm.
But where I found out where I knew was missing for me was when I got married.
Ooh.
And I'm gonna leave it there, and I'll pick back up after you finish.
So a lot of things, man. Like you, Sam, I grew up in a single parent household for a minute. My mom raised me till I was about 12 by herself. Then she got married to a wonderful man in Mr. Harold Spriggs. Love him, man, to life. That's my dad. I don't call him my stepdad. He's my dad. And my dad didn't grow up in a house with me, although my father lived in the same city as I did. He didn't. He wasn't there. He wasn't present. And I remember Sam, and I think this is where boys actually have or develop some sort or develop complexes about themselves, these insecurities, these other different things. As you alluded to, not having your dad there in those important moments of your life. And I remember as a kid, I could count a number of different times, and I played sports as well, where my dad wasn't there, and you look over to the side, and I love my stepdad. I'm gonna call him my stepdad just for purposes of this, but he's my dad. Not having my father there in the audience to watch me as I did my thing, and it's crazy because I look just like my dad, right? So that's another thing, and knowing that I look just like my dad, and the person that I'm yearning for, I'm looking for, is not there. And after time, you just develop a hard spot almost in your heart as a son for your father, even in just day. And in some cases, I know some grown men who hate their fathers today because of what you said, that lack of love, or not expect, not sharing that love, or not loving them the way that they thought they needed to be loved. And as I listened to you, Sam, I really started to think about this, because I remember as a young man, I had daddy issues. I really did, because I couldn't understand why a man would have a son or a child and not take care of the child. And then you start to think, what's wrong with me? That my parent isn't there to love me. And especially like you said, Sam, when you can see other people's other your friends maybe whose parents are there in their lives, and they're taking care of them, active in their life, right? And when you are a star basketball player, football player, you good or whatever it is you're good at, and other people are rooting for you, which is fantastic. It's nothing like having your parents, especially if you're a boy, to have your dad there. That's why when you see in the NFL, you see so many sons when they score a touchdown, when they score a basket, when they win a championship. First thing they'll holler is their mom. The reason I believe that they holler their mom is not because the mom is all that great, and I bet you she is. I'm not saying to take away from the mom. I'm saying that because the father wasn't there. The father wasn't there. So who do you acknowledge? Who do you praise for helping you get to this place to achieve this different thing? And for a lot of us as men, and I'll just use figuratively, those Super Bowl moments in our lives, those championship moments in our lives, our fathers weren't there. And because they weren't there, there's something always missing. You always feel like a piece of you is just not there, that you're off just a little bit, that you're not fully the man you probably should be. And I know in the recesses of our minds, we're like, man, I've come this far. I've done all of this, but there's still something missing. And for some of us, we get an opportunity to actually overcome that. And some of us get a chance to actually deal with our fathers one-on-one to figure out, why weren't you there? And for a good number of us, and this is where I want to hit at, we have never had the opportunity because, one, we just were maybe too afraid to confront our fathers. Maybe we know our fathers at this point, and I've seen this a lot, Sam, where the father has actually died, it's transitioned, and all the answers that you need to burning questions in your mind and in your spirit, there you can't get, there's nothing you can do with them, because the person who holds the answers is now dead and gone. And all you have is a grave side that you can go to, is holler and fuss and cuss and do whatever it is you might do in reference to expressing yourself. But we see it play out as we get older, as you said. I mean, as you become an older man or become a man, and you grow into manhood, and you grow on to get married, you have children. You know, if you haven't gotten that outside help, if you have not gotten a mentor, for uncle or grandfather or somebody else has stepped in, man, you could be way off, Sam. And you could do some very crazy things. I understood early on, as a young man, Sam, probably before, probably maybe as early as 15, that I had to have that kind of conversation with my dad before he died. It was too much at stake for me personally to not face him, so that I could deal with some stuff in my life I was dealing with, because it was a lot of things I was like, man, if he was here, I probably wouldn't have to deal with all of these different things. And he could teach me and show me how to deal with them. And it's not that again, I'm gonna call him my stepdad only for purposes of this, but my dad, who was present with me, he couldn't deal with them because he wasn't my father. He couldn't tell me about my lineage. He couldn't tell me about his father. He couldn't share with me about my father's experiences, because it's something to know. I don't know if you've done this, Sam, when your dad was present and live. My dad and I, we talk, man, and we've had so many similar experiences. It's eerily crazy to think that he's gone through so many of the same exact things that I did at the same stages in life, and I didn't have him there to talk to help me get through it. Because had he been there, I probably would not have made some of those same mistakes that he made. And thank God, by the grace of God, the mistakes were minimized because God stepped in my life and just always had his hand on me. I knew that had his hand on me, and I didn't make those same mistakes. And so I was able to do that. But I know a lot of men, man, they have not had that moment of reconciliation
Yeah.
with their fathers and being able to come to some grip with, okay, I can move on now. And then I want to get to this, Sam. I don't want to ramble on either, not ramble, but I don't want to take the whole thing because I want to hear from you.
Oh, that's okay.
There's also something my dad did for me that I know that is important for men, for boys in general. Even at an early age, I do remember one thing my father did for me. And this is why I was kind of upset and pissed with him, because I didn't get enough of it. My father, as a child, affirmed me as a child. And he talked to me about being hated for different things and how people would not, like you for other things. But he always told me, he said, son, don't worry about that because I love you. And to hear my father constantly, every time I saw him now, and I must give him credit for this, he always told me that he loved me. So I knew that he loved me. I just didn't understand why he loved me in the way that he did. But I know of men who never, Sam, ever heard their fathers tell them, I love them. And I think that's where we're going to hit at on the crux of this, because for a man, as a boy child, you need to hear your father say the words to you. I love you. It's not enough. And I hope I'm talking to some man right now. You can hear my voice. You can hear my spirit, feel my spirit. It's not enough for you to just take care of your child. It's not enough to make sure the lights are on, to make sure food is on the table, to make sure all these different things. You need to tell your child, your daughters too, but for tonight we're talking about boys. You must tell them that, because that's where it'll all come together. When they face different obstacles in their life and have to deal with different things, knowing they have the love of their father can take them to a whole nother level in life that some people will never achieve. And say, and right there, Sam, I'm gonna jump off because I see you got your head. I know you got something.
Well, here's the deal, and here's the analogy, right? As men, as we begin to grow up, now what happens is we're like in an empty toolbox.
Mm.
Now, the toolbox is not worth anything if you open it up and nothing's in it, right? That toolbox is meant to carry many different type of tools, right? And within that toolbox, right, when there's a situation that goes on within that toolbox, as what fathers should be doing to us as men as we grow, is teaching us how to reach in that toolbox, right?
That's good.
And grab that correct tool. Now, catch where I'm going to go here, because a lot of us, I felt it many of times. I've tried to grab a tool with my emotional feelings.
Mm-hmm.
That's the wrong thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
because our emotions can take us to places that we do not need to go, right? But as we learn and as we get older, as we grow in life, we begin to understand how to open up that toolbox, right? And begin to apply the correct tool. We all grew up fixing our bikes. I know for me, when we got a bike, my dad was like, hey, I'm getting you this bike, but listen here. This is your bike for the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So in that point, we were taught to begin to learn how to repair that bicycle, right? When something happened. And here's what our fathers, amen, that ones that had fathers around them and was probably taught, right? And I'll just say for me, I began to learn from my dad. He began to show me, right, how to use different tools, how to repair a flat, how to fix a broken chain, how to oil it, how to keep things up, the proper air pressure, right? This is what we need as we grow up as men, amen, to be taught how to use many different tools as we grow up. So as our sons come up, we begin to pour into them, right? We begin to pour out what we've learned into them. And now, here's the deal. If we don't have never gotten that proper tool from our father, right? Sometimes we walk around thinking that we know and understand everything, right? Not realizing that I don't know everything because I wasn't taught that. I wasn't given that as I was growing up as a young man. And we're going to always look back at our father, right? We're going to always look back and say, and now God has took my dad home to be the glory. But I've learned early on not to look back and say, I wish my dad would have.
Mm.
Well, even in all the hurt and all the misunderstanding, I began to learn early on. He did, and this is what stays in me. He did what he knew how to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like you kept saying that if you didn't have the conversation with your dad back then, like I did, which was great, you'll never grow fully until you want to be, because in the back of that self-conscience, right, you're going to always say, man, I wish I would have had
Mm-hmm.
that conversation. And this is why, as we grow up as men, as we become that we don't hold anything against the Father that God used to bring us into this life, right? Is that I'm always reminded in the word where it says that we are to constantly obey our mothers and our fathers because we will live long life.
Yeah.
Right. So I began to learn today, hey, dad did what he knew. But watch this now. As we grow in life, uh, there are other men that God would allow to come in our life, right, to give us that tool that we're missing,
Yeah.
right, to show us many different things. And for me, when I got married early on, in my life with my wife, we God blessed us to make 36 years, as I said before. But the 36 years were not the greatest in the beginning,
Mm.
because me as a man was missing some tools.
Whoo!
I'm telling you. You hear what I said? That was plural.
Yeah.
Was missing some tools
Mm.
that I needed to understand before I even stepped into that marriage. Right now, at one point, I just say, man, my dad never told me this and that. Well, sometimes our paths are different, right? But as I began to grow in my married life, there were men that the Lord began to put into my life to allow me now to begin to pick up the proper tools,
Mm-hmm.
right? In order for that marriage to say bolted together, he began to give me the proper tools, right? To allow that thing to stay locked in the way God wanted it to be locked in. So as we grow as men, we have to talk about these things. We have to share these things. And sometimes we have to talk about our shortcomings,
Mm-hmm.
what we dealt with, right? Because there's someone out there that may be dealing with something that want to hear an answer. Well, how do I deal with this?
Yep.
What gets me, and I guess I'm just different than what the Lord dealt with me, and this is the only way I've learned that I can even pastor a church is, and many occasions, Mike, Lord have dealt with me to allow me to walk through some things, and then what He did to me, He took away these alphabets: E, G, O.
Mm.
A lot of us can't function as full men because we got this ego thing that no, I will never. You can't say what you would never.
Yeah.
That's that ego, right? So as he removed that ego, I began to learn to walk in a humility and to understand that there's going to be someone that's going to help me, give me the tool, as long as I'm transparent. And the Lord will allow us, amen, to share things with certain men,
Mm-hmm.
because watch this, we're going to feel safe around that person.
Yep.
And when you feel safe around that person, now you're going to share some things, because when you share those things, you're going to be sharpened on the other side.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to be sharpened on the other side. So as men, and as we continue to grow in this, right, and have these daddy issues, I would say this here, Mike. Let's now begin to look to be sharpened from some of the issues that we're still dealing with. right?
It's been real quick, just to
Yeah.
jump in there real quick, because you just said it, and I was thinking about the whole time you said it. Can you touch on while you're doing that? Can you touch on some of those daddy issues that come to mind with some of the more common daddy issues that come to mind as you're speaking?
Well, I would say, let me just use me for an example. And like I said, I think I started off in the beginning was, when I got married young,
Mm-hmm.
right? Was, probably too young, but, was taught responsibility because you know how we do with young men, me and my wife, things happen, boom,
Yep.
baby on the way. You got to do what you got to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the Lord blessed us, right? Yeah. Now what I would say when it comes to daddy issues is just being guided and directed. And I'll start off with what the first thing is, and the first thing is, as men, as fathers, right? We need to teach our men, our sons, financial responsibility.
Man. Okay. Yep.
That's one key thing right there.
Mm-hmm.
What do that mean? Where do that take you? Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That responsibility is key, right? In any relationship, that responsibility from a daddy issue, right, is that financial responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Second thing is, and I'll tell you, my dad, I've never seen saw my dad cry. I never saw him show emotions.
Uh-huh.
That's another issue
Mm-hmm.
that we deal with. So,
Mm-hmm.
man, you may have another man that may be on today, probably can throw in your comment chat there is, we were told, stop crying.
Yeah. Yep.
Stop crying.
Mm-hmm.
Get up, stop crying.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's incorrect. It's okay to cry. That doesn't take your manhood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, that shows that sensitive side of us. We all have that sensitive side,
Yeah.
right? Especially for us that are married. I mean, you even have a sensitive side when you're courting, when you're dating. There is a sensitive side, right? So that was another thing, right? Stop crying. Their emotions, right? Emotions is key. Emotions now help you touch and move, right, the right way sometime. Now we got to be careful with that, right? Because we can move on some emotions that we should move on. We got to
Exactly.
understand how to gauge and understand those type of emotions, right? So that's another issue. Emotions, right, is another issue. Then that companionship with your father,
Mm-hmm.
that hug, right? That
Yeah.
great.
That
Come
touch.
on,
Yeah.
son.
Uh-huh.
Come on, go with me. Go, let's go ride. We're gonna go ride. Let's
Uh-huh.
go, right? And the talk, right? Those are just a few of the issues, right? That us as men, if we're not careful, right, we will allow that to seep into our relationships with our son, right?
Mm-hmm.
I heard men say, I'm not gonna be like my father. Well, I'm
Woo.
sorry to tell you, the blood is in you, and when that blood is in you, the different traits are in you.
Yeah.
They're in you. So there are some things from your father that's going to slide into you. Yeah, there's some things you don't want to carry, right? But we're going to slip. We're going to slip. That's going to happen. We are not perfect by a long shot, just as our fathers were. And I think if we take that type of attitude, even now, that we're not perfect and we're constantly living. We got this thing. Me and my wife, we do this marriage counseling thing, and it's called marriage under construction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, as men, we're constantly under construction. As long as we standing on this earth and God allow us to take our next breath, we're constantly under construction. So there are things that we're going to still yet have to be worked on. There's going to be some things that can be taken away. There's going to be some additions added to us to help us with the life of that toolbox. So we
Mm-hmm.
can draw those different things. Now, I'm a father of 5 boys. 4 are now grown and they're doing their thing. Then I have a 13-year-old, right? But still yet, I notice in my 30-something-year-old sons and my 19-year-old son and the grown ones, my 13, I still see as a dad to the grown men that have children that I still yet, right, have to still yet father them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Have to still yet father them. Have to still yet now guide them.
Yeah.
Right, in some areas, right, and that's the key. As we grow, we continue to allow them, amen, to grow into where they should be. So as we continue to talk about this and we deal with daddy issues, I would say, and for me, I have mentors in my life still to this day. If Lord allow me, I'll see 56 come August, and I tell you, I have mentors in my life that I can pick up the phone and I can call and say, hey, I'm dealing with this.
Mm-hmm.
I need some help, right? And they can speak to the point. And sometimes I can be frustrated about something, Mike, and I can call them just to get it off my chest. Well, and here's the great thing about it. It's not necessarily that they need to respond. The most response I get when I'm getting something off my chest is from my mentors is, are you done?
Mm.
That's it. And I'm like, yeah, okay, go live life, right? Because you have to release some things.
Yes, you do.
You have to.
Yeah.
You can't carry the things that you think you can carry. You have to release it. This is why the word says, cast all your cares
Yep.
onto him.
Mm-hmm.
You have, if you're walking around holding things, you're going to explode on someone that you really love.
Yep.
That's who get the backlash.
Mm-hmm.
Not the person that we think that should have got it.
Mm-hmm.
The person that get the backlash is the one that you love. And as men, we have to be careful of that, right? As men, we have to be careful of that. And that's the wonderful thing, right? And I'm going to cut Mike like you jump, because the part I'm going to jump in to be last, what we talked about earlier on this.
Yeah.
On I think as men and as we grow up, I think there should be a rite of passage. And I'm gonna leave it there, and I'll come back after you. I'm gonna turn it back over to you.
Yeah, and you know what, Sam? I'm glad you said that. Let's say that right as we're closing, because that is going to be key to what I want to talk about in closing. As you were talking, man, you just dropped so many nuggets, Sam, in that, in just what you just did, and just talking just now. And I thought about this, man, as a child, and even as a grown man, 52 years old, I still need my father.
Yes.
I'm 52. There's never a moment I don't feel in my life that I don't need my father. I know people whose father has died, gone on, and they say the same thing. So you shaking your head, you might agree as well. It's something about a father's love, man, that is very strong. And I thought about some things and I wrote it down. And I think about the fact, if I'm going through an issue, who I can pick up the phone and call, right? And if you, man, it would be my prayer that all men could pick up their phone at certain points of their lives and call their father and hear their father's voice. And I think about this, Simon, and the reason I know this to be true, because as a father, my kids have told me in talking to them about certain issues, just the sound of my voice, how it helped calm them down, how it helped ease them, how it gave them confidence and security in hearing me say what I had to say to them, because they knew I had a word for them, right? And I think about this with my own father, and this is even with I'm gonna just use this for the purposes of this, my stepfather as well, that I could pick up the phone and call them and talk to them about issues that I'm having in my life, knowing that they're going to be there to help me. And this is what fathers do. They help you. They guide you through. They put their arms around you, and they let you be vulnerable, Sam. They let you cry. They let you express all those emotions where you can drop your whole ego with them. And this is one of the things, man, that a lot of men don't get. And like you said, that toolbox, if you don't have the tools, you can't deal with certain situations. And I don't even take it a step further. If you have the tools, but nobody shows you how to use the tools and when to use the tools and for what situations, you're going to be lost. And I think about this, man, because I know there are men who behave the way they do because there's a lack, and I'll expand the conversation a little bit, because there's a lack of a male figure in their life who may have served or would have served as a father figure to help them grow and become the man they ought to have become. I see this a lot, Sam, when I look at when I'm on YouTube sometimes, and just channel surfing or whatever the case is, but mainly in social media where I see these young boys, Sam, and it drives me crazy to no end. I hear these young boys giving advice that's horrible advice. I'm talking about absolutely horrible. And at some point, my podcast it's not going to take a turn or twist, but it's going to incorporate talking about relationships. And I'm going to bring you back for this because I hear young boys talk about how they're dealing with these women and these young women. It is some of the most horrible advice I hear them giving. And they're some of the most popular people on YouTube. It's some of the worst. They've never been through anything, Sam. They've never been married. They've never had a steady girlfriend. If you listen to them, Sam, it'll almost appear as though they've never been through anything with a woman. And it scares me to hear them give advice because I know as a 52-year-old man what I've been through and the number of women I dealt with, these guys have probably never had this kind of experience or this level of experience. And yet they're passing on some very bad advice that's killing us as a people. I mean, I hear them talk about how they deal with women. And I'm like, what in the hell? Where did you get that from? But I understand when you have a good father in your life, a good father will let you make a mistake and come behind you and tell you, son, that wasn't the right way to do that.
Right.
That's not how you do that. And I can say this about both of my dads, man. They have been there to help me and guide me, especially in those kind of situations. To say, look, man, you better be very careful about how you deal with this one and how you deal with that one, because you never know if you're going to miss out on this, that, or the other. And I keep hearing these young boys, just came to my mind thinking about that. But back to this father, man, when you have that father in your life, man, they just provide so much in the way of security, in the way of confidence, Sam, because I'm going to tell you, I'm as confident as I am about almost everything I can do is because of something my father deposited in me. My stepfather deposited in me. Mentors have deposited in me. I can walk as a man upright. I can do a lot of things as a man. I'm even looked up to as a man because of what other men deposited in me, but especially my father and my stepfather. And to not have that, I understand why some men walk around very insecure, Sam, about who they are in these different places when they get amongst other men and how they begin to move and do and cut down and do these other things to other men because they're so insecure about who they are. And I realize as a man that part of who you are, not having your dad instill some things about you as a child up through your teenage years and then through as a young adult into adulthood, not having that, how that can impact you, how you go about dealing with women, how you go about dealing with other men in your circles, and just how you move in general, how people see you. It's a crazy thing to think and watch how some of these dudes move. And I thank God all the time for my father, man, who always said to me, son, I believe in you. When you hear, and it's just something, man, about, again, a father's love. And you hear that audible voice of your father telling you, you can do it. Come on, push a little bit further. I believe in you. I love you. I trust you. Just all of these different things, these affirmations, and your father just, constantly bombarding you with these different things. And I'm glad, as a little boy, I heard my father say, although he wasn't there, like I once believed he should have been. And if he were on, I think he would tell you, yeah, I messed up there. I should have been there more. And because he wasn't there, some things happen, whatever the case is. But just having those things deposited into me early on helped me understand as a child, even when people were saying things about me or whatever, and as an adult especially, I could deal with them because I could go back to what he told me. Now, this doesn't negate God, because I don't want to have people thinking if it had not been for God, there would be no him, there would be no me, there'd be no conversation, right? So I want to make that clear. But just all those positive affirmations being deposited in me, Sam, time after time after time, it helped me become a much better man. And we're going to talk about this. It even helped me become a greater father, because I can learn from my father's mistakes and go on to improve upon who he was as a Mike Johnson Sr. or 1.0 to let the 2.0 version be an even better version of of our legacy and just of who we are, just our name and all that kind of good stuff. And I'll let you pick it up from here, man. But those kinds of things just rang out to me: the security, the confidence, just moving through life as a man, being able to do some of the things I can do in the circles. But again, I'll turn it back over to you, Sam.
And it's great you talked about that, because as men, and what you talked about was validation.
Yes.
And the presence of your father means a lot. They necessarily don't have to say nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They don't have to do anything. It's the presence of the father.
Yeah.
And you know me, I just like to, when you stick with the word, he created man first.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something about the presence of a father that gives you that validation. It's the way, like I said, and always, like I just said, you don't have to speak anything. It's the presence. You just being there.
Mm-hmm.
The look that you receive from a father, and it happens to this day, and I see it a lot when other men are validated
Yeah.
by another man. It's a different level of respect. It's a different level of expectation. It's a different level of feeling that you get when another man, and I'm not saying that you need somebody to validate you, but what I'm saying is because we're in this flesh, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's be real. Let's be real. This flesh do like some gratification, and validation is one of those things that happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it helps you, right, to continue to move in that direction as men, in that direction, being that leader of the house, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They say the wife, keeps the home, keep the children. But I tell you what, it's a difference when a man walk through that door.
Hey. Hey. Yes, it is.
When a man walk through that door, and then the level of love that the family have for that man helps. Matter of fact, it sets the tone,
Yeah.
right, on how that house moves, right? Because it's up to us to protect
Yeah.
that house, to be don't have to say a lot,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just your presence.
Yeah.
I don't say a whole lot. My wife is the one that say a lot, right? You
Mm-hmm.
know, but I don't have to say a lot, but it's just the presence. When that word, and we all grew up like this, when dad get home, right?
Yeah.
Right? Even with our, and like, I'm like you, I don't say stepfathers, I say dads, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I was blessed. Of course, my dad was my mom, but I look at it like I had two moms. I love them to death, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when dad walk in the door, or when that word come out, when dad get home, right? You set yourself up to be ready, because we knew how we had to present when dad came.
Mm-hmm.
You knew as a kid, as your attitude. My mom would say, "I'm gonna call your dad to come over here," right? And you knew once that was said, there was a level of adjustment that you did,
Yeah.
right? Because of the presence that we have been given, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the key. And like I said, as we grow in this thing, and what I'll tell you, my dad told me a long time ago. He said, "Son, you get around anybody that tells you they don't need no one to tell them anything, get away from them quick.
Absolutely.
Get away from them quick." And that's what I say. As we continue to grow in this thing of being a man, right? Of being a man. God is not done with none of us. That's why we still here on this earth. And it's for us to continue to grow and to continue to sharpen to be what we need to be. And how do we do that? We have to let go. We have to let go of some issues. Watch this now. There are some unlearned things that we're still operating in that we shouldn't be operating in,
Mm-hmm.
right? As we get older, we need to step into that level, right, and grow and be what we need to be. And how we do that? We do that with mentorship. We do that with things like you have here, this podcast, to learn and to grab, right, to take away good things, right. And I'm a very observant person. I don't talk a whole lot, but I pay attention to other men. because I've learned that I can learn. I don't care their age or how old. We can always learn something. I think I told you yesterday that I like to touch the bottom of the tree to the top of the tree.
Yep.
You can consistently learn from every branch that you crawl past, every branch. You know, when we were kids, we used to climb in trees, right? You know, but as we climbed in those trees, we would look and pay attention that, oh no, that branch look a little weak. I can't step on that because if I step on that, I'm going to lose some footing. And this is how we grow in life. There are some people in life say, no, I can't apply pressure there because I don't think that person is strong enough to carry that. But you look to your right, oh, wait a minute, this branch is strong. You pull up on that branch and that brought you to some safety. Then you look down and, man, if I'd have stepped on that, I'd have fallen. And this is how we grow as men, right? We got to learn where to step, where to grab, right? Who to listen to, right? Who to glean from. This is how we grow. And this is how we begin to get away from those issues. Watch this so I can go back to that one thing I was talking about so we can begin to love.
Yeah.
For me and my marriage, as them people that mentor me, I begin now to how to love, right? How to love. And as you do that, man, then we grow, right, into that manship. And this is why I say that we do that rites of passage, right? And we tell these young men, hey, these are some things that you want to put in your toolbox. I'm not coming to try to tell you what I think you did wrong, because that ain't my job to do that. I'm just coming to tell you, hey, I think you need to add these into your toolbox because they will help you, right, get a little further in life, right? So you can be on this earth a long time, because we're losing our men to bad tools.
Yes, we are.
What I mean by that, to bad decisions, things that we saw that we thought was right, instead of receiving. But what you're talking about, Mike, with the young men, they're only going to receive the way you give it to them.
I believe that 100%.
Yeah, we can't come with that, and they can pick up on. So if we come with that judgmental eye, they pick it up quick, right? And this is what we have to do, man. We have to come with an open heart, right? Understanding we all made mistakes, we all have come from somewhere, but what we do know, we can come from that and be what you see now, right? And what we're striving to continue to be, right? You know, so that's how we need to do it. And that's how we need to deal with these daddy issues, to pick up the phone, man, and call someone that you know that's going to give you good advice. Now, when they give it to you, it's just like anything else. We have to apply it.
Yep. We
have to apply it. If we don't apply it, we won't see it work in our life. We can say all day, oh, it didn't work. Well, the question is, did you really apply it?
Yeah.
Like when I told you, when someone began to help me with my finances, right? If I didn't apply what I was being taught, I would still be jacked up. Right? So we have to apply it. And that's in our everyday life, right? We have to apply it. And I use this analogy. If you apply, for us that still work, right, and don't have own our own businesses, right? If you even our own businesses, if you don't apply what someone is trying to give you to have you catapult to that next level, you'll never get there.
Yep.
But if you apply it, that's meant if you allow it to come into you and you apply it, then we'll get there. And then what happens is some of those issues that we've been dealing with begin to drop off, right?
Yeah.
Begin to drop off. And I'll get into that last part when you're ready for me to. But I'm gonna flip it back to you right now and let you do it, and then we'll close out.
That'll work. So 2 quick things. So Tanya Boyd, I want to deal with this real quick because she asked, and thank you, Tanya, Rod, Joan. Thank you guys all for joining. I see you in the comments. Tanya says, but do you think that some of the actions of men can be directed by a strong woman in their lives? And I'm going to say partly yes to this question, because I do believe a woman can help, but a man is key here. A man is key here. And we see this in society today where men are being X'd out, and I mean X'd out of the equation. And it's for a reason. I don't want to get into all the reasons on tonight because it's too many to talk about here. We have to do another show on it. But men are being X'd out, and they're being X'd out purposely. And so, Tanya, hear me when I say this. A woman cannot raise a man to become a man. she can help and deposit into him as he becomes a man. But you need another man to help you become a man, because there's struggles, Tanya, that as a woman you'll never be able to identify with. You'll never have any understanding of, because you're not a man. It's like me with my wife. There are certain things I know that my wife can deal with my daughters, because she's a woman and she can talk to them from a woman's standpoint or point of view, because she's a resident expert. She has the knowledge. I don't. As a father, I can come behind her. Excuse me. I can come behind her and reinforce some things, but there's just some things, Tanya, I will never have a clue. And I'll give you a good example. I remember when my daughters were younger and they were teenagers, how they went through those teenage years and how they felt about boys. How could I possibly tell my daughters about those experiences and what they may be feeling? I couldn't. Now, I could tell them about boys, but I couldn't explain to them from a woman or a girl standpoint how they might be feeling. I think you understand exactly what I'm saying, because we don't, as men and women, we have two different sets of emotions, especially when we get into relationships. For the most part, we think two entirely different ways about things, and especially at that point in life. So yes, I do believe a woman can deposit, and I will give my mother credit for what she did and helping me get to the place where I need to get to. I will give my wife credit, because as a husband, we still need that positive affirmation. I'm gonna deal with this at a later date and talking about relationships and what women need to do if they want to have a great relationship with their husbands, with their spouses, with their boyfriends, significant others, or whatever the case is, because there are a lot of mistakes I see being made with women, with their husbands or boyfriends, whatever. But in any event, I do give them credit. I know if it had not been, Sam, for my wife, specifically in business, I'm thinking about this in this particular aspect, I may not have gotten as far, Sam, as I have gotten today. I would dare say I probably may have even have given up a time or two if it had not been for my wife reinforcing and encouraging me to still go on anyway, after a failure, or not achieving what I thought I should have achieved. So absolutely. And giving my mother credit, Sam, I never would have went to college if it wasn't for my mom. My mom was the one that said, hey, if you don't go to college in the first place, you're gonna have to work, you're gonna have to get a job, you're gonna have to add to this household. And I remember one day, Sam, after working for 1 month, I couldn't do it no more, man. I couldn't do it. I worked at the post office. They had me up in them trailers, Sam. I was deep in them 18-wheelers pulling that mail out. Every day I come home tired, dusty, dirty, all that dust up my nose, man. I don't even know how people do it. It should be illegal probably to do it the way they were doing it. But I remember coming home saying, all right, I'm done. It was my mother saying, I did not know this. I came home and my mother said, I need you to sit down. And I was like, I'm tired. She's like, no, I need you to sit down. I sat down, Sam, and she laid out all this paperwork for me. And I'm looking at this paperwork, and we had a long table at this time, a dinner table. And I'm saying to myself, what is all this? Why we sit down with all this paper? And she said, every last one of these stacks of paper are applications that I submitted to you for college. Right? And I said, you did what? My mother submitted the applications for me to go to college. I didn't even have sense enough in my own mind to say, I need to at least apply for college. And check this out. She did it. And she showed me, she said, you've been accepted to all these different colleges. And in some instances, you even got financial assistance. You got money coming. You just need to decide what school you want to go to. I was blown away. As a result, my mother, who doesn't have a college degree, made sure her son got a college degree. She made sure I did all these different things to become partly who I am as a man. And that's why I say I don't take away from my mother, because, or any woman for that matter, because I believe you could deposit. But when it comes to being a man, you need a male figure, a strong, let me be very clear, a very strong male figure in your life who's going to lead you along the way and show you, Sam, not just the good, but also the bad, and show you how to transition from a boy to a young man to through your teenage years into adulthood, and then later on as a father and all these other things. A woman can't teach you something. She can only teach you a limited number of things. And then a man has got to come along and help guide you the rest of the way. Now, some people would probably disagree with that you can't do that. A woman could do it. I'm here to I'm talking vehemently disagree with you. You cannot do it, not by yourself. And nor can a man do it by himself. But I'm just telling you, as a man, you need a father. You need a father-like figure to come in and help you understand some things about you, what it is to be a man, what it is to go through, the emotions that you're going to feel, the things that are going to happen to you, how to deal with them, Sam, how to deal with other men, how to deal with other women, what a man looks like. A woman can't tell a man what a man looks like. I'm talking about there's some deep places that a woman could never go, that only a man can go, because we know. I believe as men, we don't give up all the man code. We might give up some parts and give a cheat sheet, but we don't give you everything that's in the playbook. No man does that. And there's some things that only a man can do that will change your entire life and your existence forever. And part of what we get ready to talk about next is extremely, extremely, extremely key to becoming a man and being solid as a man. And after you're done, Sam, I'll kind of come behind you and give a benediction, if you will. But go ahead, Sam, and let's talk about this one piece, man, that you blew me away with, that I believe every son should experience, whether it's from a father, uncle, a cousin, some male figure, to help him go on to that next part of life. Talk about that a little bit, Sam.
And yeah, and then if I may, for the viewer that had that question about, can a strong woman help? I think said help guide.
Yeah, actually, I'll just read it one more again just so you can get it. This was literally what the question was. She said, hold on one second, let me go back. But do you think that some of the actions of men can be redirected by a strong woman in their lives?
She said some of the actions be redirected with a strong woman. And I was trying to think of her mindset, but I'm thinking this way, and I'll just use myself, me being married 36 years, because of the commitment and the strength of my wife. Yes, guided me in different areas so my actions could be correct. If that makes sense, right?
Makes perfect sense.
So I just want to tell her, in some cases, yes, yes, for sure, because it's nothing like a man knowing, and I'm just talking married part, right?
Yeah.
It's nothing like a man knowing that he has a strong counterpart.
Yep.
Behind him.
Yep.
Right? Doesn't matter the error he may have made, right? Didn't do this, didn't pay that or whatever, but still yet that strong person pushes him to that area, right? So in that case, I want to take a question from that point of view, that yeah, they can help, right? In that direction. So I just want to let her know that yes, that is most definitely. Yeah, I agree with it. So on this thing, so because of time, so it's a thing, Mike, that the Lord had put in my heart years ago, that I do with young men, especially of our ministry here, because and I shared it with you, and what I know I've realized is the minute that I confess with my mouth, believe in my heart that Jesus Christ is my Savior, I began to understand that the minute I did that, I now was about to begin to walk in what God created me to be as a man, right? Because now I was about to be fed and taught and guided in the direction of being that strong man and being the man of the responsibility of the house. So, and what I do and what I said earlier is I hear people, but I watch their actions. Because folks can say a lot of things, but then the action is complete. Right. So I watch their actions when it comes to men, right? Because my heart is for men. I love being around men. I love being around men. I'm a man. I just love being around men.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I said, things that we can talk about, things that we can share, the things that we sharpen for one another with, right? So what the Lord put on my heart and what I do here is after someone has been with us a while, and I've seen them move and seen them react and seen them deal with their family and do different things. There is a ceremony that I do that they have no idea that the ceremony is going to happen, right? Until it happens. So there's a thing that we do here that I do here that I present, you know, my men, right, with a sword, right? Because the word says it's sharper than any two-edged sword, right? I present them with a sword, right? And I have a plaque that I give them, right? To let them know that you have now entered, right, into the thing God meant for us to be.
Mm-hmm.
He meant for us to be those strong men. And it's amazing. And presenting that sword is like presenting a responsibility, that I have a responsibility, right, to do what I am supposed to do on this earth as a, watch this, man. And I think that if we do this with our young men as they grow in certain ages, as they grow, as they next make those next levels, and it's back to that validation, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we let them know, right, if we celebrate them,
Yeah.
and let them know, and I'm not talking about just on that holiday they made up, Father's Day.
Mm-hmm.
To me, just like Mother's Day, Father's Day and Mother's Day to me is every day. It's
Wow.
every day.
Yep. Should be.
Is every day. Is every day. Father's Day, Mother's Day is every day. So I present that to the men, right, to show them what they mean to me
Mm.
as their spiritual father.
Mm-hmm.
What they mean to me, and it's beautiful because I'm transparent with my men, right? They understand my ups and downs. I understand their ups and downs because when we do that, we begin to understand each other.
Yep.
So now we're more prone, Mike, to pick up the phone or to say, hey, man, meet me for lunch. I need to talk about something.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we do that, we sharpen one another. And if
Yeah.
we don't, men, and before I go and for my closeout, I just want to say this to you. If you don't have anyone to share anything with, I beg you to find that person, because here's what I want to tell you. The last thing we want to do, and I'm going to close it here, is to release anything onto our families or onto anyone that we love
Mm-hmm.
that was not due that. We don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So anything that you're dealing with, anything you bite in your teeth, I'm talking about even if you're married and the wife, whatever, we get on each other's nerve. That's why we marry.
Yeah.
Right? It ain't lovey-dovey every day, but you need to have that person who say, dude, I was just talking to my old lady, my wife, and boom, boom.
Yeah.
You got to have somebody to talk to so that person can say, man, I hear you, dude, but this how I dealt with it.
Yeah.
Because you want to keep that peace. So I just say that to say that as this thing grow and as we can get to a point to where there's a rite of passage, right? That we say, hey, look, I have a responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
right? I have a responsibility to do what God created me to do. He said that I am the head
Mm-hmm.
of the household. I am the head, right? So that's something that we do, Mike. And I tell you, it's beautiful. Like I said, we do it. It's not that we set this up. No. This is something that I do. I call them up. They don't even know what's happening. Call them up, and boom, when they turn around, they're presented with something. And it's good even for their wives and their children
Absolutely.
to see, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an incredible thing, right? That's an incredible thing. So that's what I do, and that's what I love to do for men, because men, I love them, and if we continue to lead the way, man, things are going to always get better.
Absolutely. So let me say this as you get ready to close out, and I give the benediction here. Let me say thank you, Sam, for joining me tonight, man. It has been a pleasure to have you on, to talk to you, and it's something when men come together and we bond and we talk and we share and we grow. You just said all that, and it's something to have another man that you can confide in. You can't confide in everybody. You can't confide in every man.
Yeah.
It's something to have another man you can confide in and tell them, man, how you actually feel. This is one of the reasons why we probably died so early. I had a podcast I did with, I saw Dr. Rod on. Thanks for joining, Rod. We talked about why men have such anxiety, why men die of heart attacks, why we experience all this trauma and pressure, because we don't talk to nobody, right? We just don't do it. And so in this benediction, this closing, thank you again, man. I really appreciate you. Man, we sit down from time to time. We do our thing. We talk, have great talks. I mean, for hours. And I want to jump on what you said, come behind you, Sam. And let me talk to the men for a minute as I close. All right. And this for women too, but specifically the men. If you don't have someone, like you said, like Sam said, pray and ask God to send somebody in your life who you could be real with, somebody you could talk to, somebody you can empty yourself with. Because as a man, especially as a black man, we deal with a lot every single day. You can't carry this all by yourself. Yes, you can talk to your wife about some things, but you need to find a man you can talk to as well, whether it be your father, your uncle, your cousin, your son, even a friend, whomever, somebody you can talk to about this. And I want to encourage you also too, that it's okay to go get professional mental help or counseling of some sort. I know there's a stigma attached to us getting psychological treatment or going to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist or even a sociologist or whomever to help us deal with and work through our problems to be better people. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. So I want to encourage you to also do that. But I also want to encourage you as men and women too. We're going to get to this because I'm going to do another podcast. I may actually bring you back, Sam, and do a panel about this. Why women who are struggling with daddy issues and what it's doing to them and how it's impacting their relationship, why they can't actually have functional, good, lasting, loving, wholesome relationships with men because of the relationship they don't have with their father, or because of the relationship is toxic with their father. So let me just get to this piece of it. If your father is still living, and I know for some of you this is going to be a tough thing, make amends with him. Some people don't understand, so let me help you here. As a father now of 27 years, probably almost 28 years, we don't always know what to do, okay? We are learning as we go along every day, just like you are. Some things we know, some things we don't know. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't get it right. Have patience with us. We don't know everything. And I know your father probably has never said this to you, which is why he's probably made some mistakes he's made, because he wasn't taught, number one, how to be a father. Please understand, especially in our community, the Black community, we don't grow up with fathers. How in the world can you expect to be a great father when you've never had a father or father-like figure in your home to teach you how to be just that? It's extremely difficult. So it means that you're going to make a number of mistakes and errors as you're going along, but you're doing the best you can with the tools, Sam, that you said that you have. Not knowing even what all the tools are, how they work, and when you're supposed to utilize them. You just go through the box rummaging, hoping that I pick the right tools sometimes, that I apply it the right way, and everything works out the way it's supposed to. Sometimes that happens, sometimes that doesn't happen. And so I just want to say, if your father's still alive, don't waste a moment in not trying at least to develop a relationship and figuring out who you are, because who you are as a man is connected directly to who your father is, good, bad, or ugly. It doesn't matter. That man holds a key to a large part to who you are. And if you ever expect to be and become a great man, you need to understand who he was. And so if he's still living, try to get that from him. And I promise you, it's nothing like having that experience. Please, 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 fathers, last thing, and then we're going to get up out of here, Sam. Celebrate your children. Affirm your children. Love your children. Tell them how you feel about them, because it's so important to their growth and who they become and who they never become. And be present in their lives. I mean, the greatest gift you could give to your children, to your wife, to your household, is to be your presence. P-R-E-S-E-N, I'm spelling it wrong because I'm a mall, whatever. But your presence, your physical presence, means more than a P-R-E-S-E-N-T. It means way more than that. So do what you can as a father. And guess what? Sometimes, man, I understand this as a man, Sam, you know this. Sometimes you're not going to get your flowers. Sometimes you're not going to be celebrated.
Right.
Sometimes you're going to be overlooked. And guess what? That for you watching us and for you hearing us, that hurts to the core. We're still people. We're still human beings with feelings. We want the same kind of love and attention that you give to your mother or to your grandmother. We all may not always say that, but we always want that. So let me just be clear right there with that whole piece. So again, Sam, to you, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you guys for all of you who have tuned in and watched us on tonight. I appreciate you. We're gonna be back next week, next Tuesday. But do me a favor in the meantime, please subscribe to this channel. Please like, please share, hit that notification button. And if you like what you're seeing, please let us know, because we really need to know how we're doing, because I'm on a mission like Sam to help men get better. That's the whole reason, Sam, that I created this channel, was because I know now at 52, it's time for me to start now depositing. It's time for me to start now helping younger men become better men, so that the legacy, so that a legacy I want to leave is that I helped other men to become better men. Yes. And I know I have a lot to give. I have a lot to teach, and I have a lot to do. And I know I owe it to God because of where he's brought me from and where he's brought me to. And it's not enough to just be grateful. Now I've got to do my part and help men become men and become better men where I can. So again, thank you guys so much on tonight. We appreciate you. Sam, do you have any parting words before we go?
That's it. I appreciate your time, man, and keep doing the good work.
Man, thank you so much. Thank you again for joining us. And to all of you who joined us on tonight, thank you so much. We'll be back on next week. I'm going to announce later on in the week what the topic is going to be. We're closing out Men's Health Month. And so we want men, as I restate this, to all of my guys out there, especially in your 30s, your 40s and 50s, go get your prostate looked at, man. Go take care of your health. Go get your eyes examined, get your teeth worked on, get your mental worked on. Health-wise, your mental health, your physical health, whatever it is, and whatever area you're lacking, please go see someone to help you live a better, healthier whole life, so that your family can also have the benefit of having you around. Your presence is everything. It's everything. It's everything. So please take care of yourself. So again, next week it'll be our final in the series for this month. This is Mental Health Month. We're going to address some things. So again, Sam, I appreciate you. To all of you who were on with us tonight, thank you so much. The replay will be available. Point people to it and let them know we took care of some business on tonight. Again, appreciate you all. Sam, hang on for a minute, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful evening and a great weekend.